I'm happy to have a guest with me that I would consider the OG of undercover work, especially in the Lynchburg area, Jeff Pike. Hey, I'm glad to have you on. Just talk a little bit about yourself, kind of where you grew up. Your dad's a legend. And then talking to you, I feel like you're right behind him as far as having that status. So talk a little bit about how you grew up, you and your brother in law enforcement, and having a dad that was the sheriff of Wythe County.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Joy. Again, my name's Jeff Pike. Myself and my brother's only 13 months younger than me, so we're basically almost like twins.
Right.
So I was born on Keesler Air Force Base when my father was cycling out of Vietnam, and within a few months, he became a police officer. So I always say I've been in law enforcement since basically I was 6 months old. Early on, oddly enough, myself and my brother would be exposed to things that you couldn't replicate today.
Right.
We were in jails. We were here and there at the range. We were allowed to shoot guns, whatnot. And when we were super young, it was a little bit more laid back. But then when my father became sheriff of Wythe County and we were early 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, it accelerated to a crazy level of we begged our father to go out with him. So we were as teenagers, we were on traffic stops. We were doing shakedowns or searches of the jail. We were on undercover stuff. We were at crime scenes. I remember as a young man going with our father to where a gentleman had accidentally cut his head off almost with a chainsaw. And back then you called the funeral home, and Garland Grosclose was the funeral home director, and they got finished taking photos of everything. And the funeral home director said, "You Pike boys grab a foot." My brother grabbed a foot. I grabbed a foot. He grabbed a head and the body, and we put him in the body bag. Never thought a thing about it.
And how old were you then?
Probably 13 or 14 years old.
Didn't think anything about it.
Went home, watched cartoons. We were happy to go out with our daddy and do things. In high school, my dad was involved in a shootout with a gentleman. Set in high school, they had the big speaker box on the wall. And Mr. Carney, who's passed, was our principal. And the speaker went off and said, "Miss such and such send Jeff Pike to the office." So I get there. There sits my brother. He goes, "What'd you do?" "I didn't do anything. What'd you do?" So Mr. Carney's smoking a pipe, typical different air.
Right.
"You Pike boys, sit your asses down.
Okay.
Your daddy's done shot and killed a guy off the road here. I know how rumors are. I just want to let y'all know your daddy's fine. He's done shot and killed a man right out the road. Now everything will be fine." We were like, "Can we leave school? We want to go down to the jail." "Y'all are going to get your asses back to class. Your daddy's done killed a man, and that man almost killed a couple other people. Now, just because your daddy killed a man don't mean y'all going to get out of school. I don't want the rumors going around this school that your daddy done killed a man." And he kept saying it. "Your daddy's done killed a man."
How old were you then?
Oh, God, 13, 14 years old.
Your daddy's done killed a man.
Yeah, and if you did that today, you'd have to have counseling.
Yeah. No counseling. You just went back to your next
Went
class.
to class. By the end of the day, there'd been 20 deputies killed. The rumors had went all over the place. And what happened was the gentleman, actually, he was from Baltimore and had shot a police officer up there, stole his .38. And I don't remember if it was a Colt or Smith & Wesson, but they rotate the cylinder. The cylinder rotates opposite. Mm-hmm. So he had lined the gun up thinking it was going to land on the live round when in fact it was going to cycle the opposite way than he thought. So it was a traffic stop. This elderly lady had been abducted and he was on pills. So he was taking her into town to the drugstore to get some medication that she had prescriptions for. Right. Random thing. He had shot and killed the police officer in Baltimore. And when my dad started walking up,
so your dad stops him.
Well, another deputy had stopped him and standing there talking to him. My dad, believe this or not, a guy had showed up and my dad was thinking about hiring him. He'd never been a police officer, and he was thinking about hiring him. they got the call, and my dad was such a hands-on sheriff. He told this new guy who'd never been anything, come on, jump in the car with me. We're going to go out on this traffic stop. The new guy sitting in the front seat. As my dad walks up, the guy pulls the gun out and points at the guy's head and says, "Die, you son of a bitch." Clicked on an empty cylinder. And that's when my daddy shot him. And again, a different era. On the front page of the paper, they had a picture of the guy's body in the street, nothing blurred out. And the caption was, "Die, you son of a," and they bleeped out bitch. You can't make it up.
And that's in Wytheville.
That's in Wytheville.
Ugh.
So again, I could tell you a million stories of things that we experienced. We would go into dispatch. And of course, it was small dispatch. The dispatcher needed to go to the bathroom. "Hey, Jeff, can you dispatch for a while?" Kid, your brother.
You're answering telephone and trying to give information out.
Yeah. I got to go to the bathroom. Yeah,
Okay,
we could do it. We go to the jail. Excuse me. We're going to do a shakedown or search. "Can we do it, Dad, please?" Throw me and my brother in the pod and lock the door with 20, 25 inmates. And the inmates would say, "These Pike boys know all the hide and play." We was reaching in the commode. We knew all the string tricks. We knew it all.
So you're like, that was like the great adventure.
Yeah.
The Pike's great adventure.
Yeah, we begged for it. And if anybody, even as little bitty kids, would come up, and my dad, I think, got a kick out of it, he would go, ask them what they want to be when they grow up. "We want to be policemen." And it was such a naive time, I think, too, as I went through my career and you see the, corruption and different things and different experiences. In my mind then, the policeman was there and still should be there to help people. And I was like, you could help lost people get directions to the highway, or, their cars broke down and you can help them.
Right.
That was the naivety but we were kids.
But you still, I think though, with as many stories as you have of those, I can imagine you have very similar stories of your dad stepping up in the community that he served.
Absolutely. You got to realize our first sheriff was, and I'm going to say his name out of respect, Buford. It had been handed down from his father-in-law, and that guy's daddy before him. So my father was the first truly modernistic sheriff in that he wore uniform, he was in shape, he worked out, he carried an automatic, he didn't sit behind the desk, he patrolled around, he pulled people over. And if it was a serious crime, he was there. He was the one that would kick in the door or punch somebody out or do whatever needed. I was telling somebody the story the other day. We had a community where this gentleman had some mental issues, and the people were complaining about the stench from the house.
Right.
So we go down to this house, me and my brother piling in with my daddy again.
Right.
And so we go in this house, and this gentleman's laying in the bed. He had pooped all himself, all over the house. There were dead dogs, dead rats, dead cats. You couldn't stand it. You were almost ready to throw up. And he's laying in the bed, obviously out of his mind. They were going to commit him. There's some relatives. We got to get him out of here. And it was so bad. I mean, literally, the floor was just covered in feces.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad would come outside. He said to one deputy, "Go get a can of gas and call the fire department." The power line was hooked to the side of the house with the old insulators.
Uh-huh.
My daddy took a shotgun and blew the power lines off the side of the house. I'm not making any of this up.
I've heard the stories from your dad.
The fire chief comes and is like, "We can't burn this house down." My dad's like, "There's a code. I can declare this a immediate public health hazard." He threw some gas in there, threw a flare in,
And away
burned it to the ground. And you would think it would be outrage and shock. The community was cheering.
Because they had been dealing with him for years.
They were cheering. They were like, "Oh my God, Sheriff Pike just saved us from this nightmare."
Yes.
And over the years, I would get stories like that of, even if it was simple things. One day I saw this elderly gentleman, and he's like, "How's your dad?" "He really helped me out one time." I said, "What happened?" "Well, I hired a pest control company. I won't say their name because they're a national one. And I felt like they ripped me off. And I just saw your dad, mentioned it to him. I didn't ask him for help, didn't say nothing.
Just told him the story.
Just told him the story. Next day, this company rolls in with a guy in a suit and tie and about 6 workers. He's like, I was stunned. And I asked the guy, I was like, what's up with this? And he goes, sheriff called us, said, if you're going to do business in our county, you better treat people fair or you'll never work here again.
Outstanding.
And he said they got it fixed. So it was little things like that. And my dad knew everybody. You know, my family's 7 generations in that county.
Right.
And he has a tremendous memory and just knew the history, the family histories. He knew if he talked to you, Jewett, he would go, how's your dad doing? Your mom? Now your brother? And he could tell you these details. Now Jewett's brother, he got maybe killed in a car wreck, or they work here, or his daddy retired. He knew all that stuff.
All the information.
And it wasn't because he was fake. It was just that was the thing.
It was important to him.
Yeah. He spoke at every high school graduation for all 3 high schools. He married people. The judge said, Sheriff, you're here at the courthouse all the time. I can fix it where you can marry people. Thinking, apparently people going from Ohio to Myrtle Beach decide in Wytheville they want to get married.
Okay.
So he's marrying like 20 people a week. Then the horse people get wind of it. The sheriff can marry you. So he got like a old West sheriff's outfit, and he did all these Western weddings.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he would do, I don't say silly, but you know what I'm saying.
But it was he was relatable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to kick your ass if you need it, but he's also there.
Yeah, it's hard to describe some of the things that he did because you're going to sound like he's an asshole.
Right.
But he was only...
that only came out if it had to.
Exactly. Somebody took a swing on you, or somebody was doing something mean, or... you know, it was a super bad criminal. You know, it wasn't like he was Billy Badass.
No.
And he was a good looking man. Women loved him. Women would come up. It's the best looking sheriff we've had ever in the history of this county. I was like, Dad, you get more votes from that.
Right.
And he would just kind of eat it up and laugh and whatnot. So,
right.
It was just kind of weird. And then my mom, you know, right when they got married, she worked for the CIA, which is another weird aspect in my family.
Okay.
So
talk about, just briefly, like what it's like to sheriff of a county and somebody that works for the agency. What is that like as a kid?
My mom was very quiet about it. She never really discussed it much. She did clerical stuff.
Right.
And what they would do, they would come to rural Appalachia counties to recruit workers because they didn't think they would be corrupt by the Russians or some foreign entity. Okay. So that's how she got in that position.
So she was able to work from Wytheville, or she had to
No, she worked in D.C.
Okay.
But then when they got married, then, you know, she left
the
CIA. Growing up with your dad as sheriff, it was, you know, it was odd at some points in that I wouldn't say that I gained any advantage from it because my dad didn't
do that.
Yeah, the only ticket I ever got in my life, my dad gave it to me. That shit ain't gonna happen today.
Gave you a ticket.
Gave me a ticket for driving a motorcycle without a license. He told me not to be on this motorcycle. My buddy had one, and he gave me a ticket. And I don't even think there's a law. He gave my buddy a ticket for letting me ride it. And, you know, but he told me, you're no better than anybody else just because you're my son and I'm the sheriff. As far as the community goes, you were always well known. Everybody knew who you were. You know, getting later in teens, if you went to a party or something, you know, it was still fairly naive-ish that there was drinking, but you didn't see a lot of drug activity. Mm-hmm. You know, the people that did that in that era, they were just people that I didn't hang out with.
So what was Wytheville? So did you live in Wytheville? Or
we lived just outside in the county.
So what was it like growing up in Wytheville?
Wytheville, the town's a population of about 10,000 people.
Okay.
The county's 30,000 people, 400 square miles.
But you got 2 interstates rolling.
That's I was getting ready to say. The weird thing is we have 60 miles of 2 major interstates. So traffic-wise, 30,000 cars go through per hour in our county on a normal day. Good. That's not counting holidays. So you had more population driving through than you actually had living there. And it was, you know, just a normal Appalachia, you know, but the interstates really, I think, changed the dynamic. And my father, you know, he started traffic units, motorcycle units, drug interdiction, things that were totally unheard of that all the sheriff's offices do now. They all do it now.
Yeah, I remember in Bedford County when Kent Roby was there, he would come down. He came down there, and your guys actually came to Bedford County
Exactly.
to run an interdiction and teach them how to do it, and started the canine program here.
Sure.
So,
I remember when that happened, you had we had interdiction, which was one of my favorite things to do, is to do interdiction on the interstate. To me, that was the funnest.
that was the best job ever.
That was the most challenging, like not a cat and mouse game, but just a challenge to figure things out. Because, my biggest load I ever got was 137 kilos from a white grandma.
137 kilos of what?
Marijuana.
Okay.
330 pounds. I've got 2 key loads of coke, but it's not the stereotypical what you would think you're looking for. So it was this kind of you had to know your stuff and know
So let's
some
talk
techniques.
about that for a second, because I think a lot of people want to look at cops and they're profiling.
Sure.
But it's profiling behavior. It's not profiling
The
skin
person.
color or anything
No.
else.
What it is, and there was like Robbie Bishop that was killed down in Georgia, came up and trained, and we would do things like set in the median, and very visible, and you would watch the cars after they passed you, and then they would be if someone's got a big load of dope, they're looking in the rearview mirror. And then that's when they cross the line and gives you the PC.
Bigger the load, the bigger the reaction.
Exactly. So and you pull them over and it's a regular person. You have hey, you cross the line. Are you okay? And you cut them loose with a warning. Sometimes it's just the amount of numbers. You're pulling over lots of vehicles and you eventually, and then sometimes it's stupid. I had some guys from Kentucky came through at 95 miles an hour on the interstate with a suspended license. And they had, I don't know how many ounces of coke and like 20 pounds of weed in the truck.
So not the brightest criminals.
So it's a lot of it's just the amount of numbers.
Right.
You're out there pulling over people, and not only are you doing traffic, but the little signs to look for, and how to deal with people. And the majority of the big loads I've gotten were consent searches.
So talk about that. I think people a lot of times think, that you try to I don't want to say get your way into a car or anything else, but realistically, good law enforcement is communication.
Exactly.
And so talk about what communication does in a traffic stop to get you to the point where you get the consent search.
Well, I think, from the start is to be professional and you're not a jerk about things, because that's not going to get you anywhere. And I'm not saying kiss people's butt, but, yes, sir, how you doing today? Then you get them to a point where, you step out for me, let's talk, we're doing the ticket or whatever, warning, I'm giving you a warning. Hey, look, we got a lot of trouble. And I've interviewed these people after the fact, and they feel like if they give you consent that you're not going to look. And I've taken a lot of people to jail that said, I've given consent before, and the cop just went, I appreciate it. And they think in their mind, if you give them consent,
there's no
dope there.
Yeah.
So, it's this kind of a psychological thing of, I never had any problems with it. I have had just a handful of people hang up and go, no, I'm not giving you consent. But if I had enough, then you could get a canine. The problem is back in the day, you didn't have many canines. And if the wait was too long, you couldn't justify keeping them there.
So the thing I think about with what you're talking about and with searches and talking to people on the side of the road, what I think is really cool about it is you talk about your traffic stop with all that weight in marijuana. It was a grandma.
Yeah.
And so it's not your traditional traffic stop.
No.
And so what you're keying off of is their reaction to your questions and how they interact.
Well, she was fairly easy other than her appearance. And here was the easy part. Vehicle's a rental.
Okay.
It's rented in somebody else's name. I'm holding the rental agreement. She can't tell me who that person is. There's luggage with airline stickers on the back seat. And then again, in that conversation, and I remember her first name is Laura, and I don't remember what her last name is.
Wasn't Bush, was it?
No.
Okay. Thank goodness. So
I said, wow, you you got airline tickets? She said, yeah, I flew from Boston to San Diego, and I'm renting a car and driving back. That makes no sense.
Oh.
And the car wasn't squatted much. I said, and a lot of people don't think beyond their initial lie.
Right.
So you got to be quick with that to figure that out. So I said, what do you got in the trunk? She said, antiques. Well, what she didn't know is that I truly love antiques.
Oh, dude.
And I'm super informed on antiques and collect different stuff. And I went, Laura, daggone girl, I love antiques. What kind do you have? And she went, and she put her hand to her face. And then I pulled the trick that I always pulled, which it's no secret. I don't think it's secrets. I don't really care. And I pulled it many a time. I said, Laura, honey, you look like a very nice woman. Do you think I was just sitting there waiting on anybody? I know what's in that trunk.
Yeah.
And I've been watching and waiting on you to come by me. And right now is your chance. You have this one chance, this one opportunity where I can still help you out. She went, dear God, they loaded the trunk. I'm not supposed to mess with it. Am I going to go to jail, please? I was like, what is it? It's some kind of drugs. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
She didn't even know what it was. They just hired her.
Well, what happened was she got paid $30,000 a trip.
Good.
They flew her from Boston to San Diego. She would tell them what room she was in. They would bring a rental car to her, drop the keys. She would drive across country, stopping in Vegas, Branson, whatever she wanted to do, make it to Boston, let them know she had made it to her house.
Right.
Somebody would come, she'd give them the keys, they'd drop her $30,000, and she did 4 trips a year. 4 trips a year.
$120,000.
Yeah. Cash, tax-free.
Yep.
So we called the DEA. They came down and did a delivery, busted the head guy up there, and his main operators were all elderly. When I say elderly, I'm 61, 65 to 75-year-olds.
Retirement age people.
You would never
take a second look at.
No. He wasn't going to deal with the guy from the streets or the hood or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The typical,
or the dumb one from Kentucky.
Yeah, the dumb ones from Kentucky.
95 miles an hour.
The long hair with the marijuana T-shirt on. And,
right.
These were clean cut, like your grandma.
So talk a little bit about, so you transitioned from growing up in a law enforcement family. Your next step was the game warden, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So back then, there were so many applicants for different jobs, and you would put in, and there would be thousands of people apply for a job. Mm-hmm. My brother at the time, he had came out of service, and within months, he was hired as a game warden, which he worked his way up to major, and then later became the longest-serving chief of the Capitol Police in Virginia. And then he retired after 30-some years. My dad worked from sheriff, then became U.S. Marshal, and he was the U.S. Marshal for the Western District until he was 70. He worked 2 terms Bush, 1 term Obama.
Okay.
Then he retired from that. So I was putting in for jobs. I was doing investigative work for insurance companies,
right.
And that was my main way of making money. Plus, I was working part-time for the sheriff's office, but I didn't get paid because my dad didn't believe in nepotism. And so...
But he liked the work.
Yeah,
the work he put in.
I worked about 20 hours a week, uniform, whatever. But I was paid like $15 every 2 weeks to keep me on the liability insurance. But I donated it back to the DARE program or the Flower Fund at the sheriff's office. But I made my money in insurance. So my first job in law enforcement, tech full time, I left a very good job in the insurance industry, paid very well. And there were 4,000 applicants for 12 openings, and I got hired with the Game Commission.
Okay. What was your initial assignment?
Fairfax, Arlington, and Alexandria.
Was that a little culture shock for you?
Yeah.
But you were born there, right? Or up that way?
No, I was always raised I was born in Biloxi, Mississippi when my dad was in the military, but we were primarily from Wythe.
Okay.
So they sent me to Fairfax.
Okay.
Which...
You're like,
they didn't ever seen a game warden. They didn't even know what it was. The first week I was there, I called armed robbers that robbed a 7-Eleven. I pulled up in front of a 7-Eleven. These 2 guys run out, and they were like, they just robbed the store. I took off, and I snatched one of them. I was doing more criminal stuff up there than I was anything.
Yeah.
But I took it as an opportunity. Like, They had 4 helicopters. Jeff Pike, I'd ride down to the Fairfax Air Station. Hey, can I go up with you guys? They take me up, this and that. I'd kind of figure out the lay of the land, how it worked. Dispatch center, monstrous. State police, they're like, we'd never seen a game warden up here. So, you know, I was just this kind of...
proactive.
It was weird, and I didn't have radio. Back then, the game warden dispatch shut off at 5 o'clock. I didn't have a radio. I was just doing stuff by myself, to the point that the captain up there at Fairfax brought me in one day. They had big radios. Jeff, you're going to get killed up here, dude. I ain't supposed to do this. Sign here. We're going to give you a radio, and here's you a number. If you need something, you got something to call somebody with. Of course, we didn't have cell phones.
So that was the captain for the police department up there?
For state police.
State police. Okay.
Then Fairfax County, well, they got 3,000 or 4,000 cops.
Yeah.
I had an incident where I went to this Lake Akateek, and there was this Hispanic guy rolling a keg of beer down the street, and there was a distribution center right up the road. And so I pull in, he's drunk. Obviously, he's probably stole it from up the road.
Right.
He fought me a little bit. I handcuffed him, put him on the ground, and we're there with a keg. Didn't have a radio or anything. And so the park people come by on a golf cart, and I said, hey, go down to the office, call the county, tell them I'm down here in the park, and send somebody to help me with this guy, and there's probably been a break-in. Well, they go and call up and go, hey, there's a game warden down in the parking lot. He said he needs some help. Can you send somebody out? That's what they said. Down in the parking lot, and hung up.
Oh.
I'm standing there with the guy. I hear, woo, 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 woo. I was like,
that's a lot of people.
What's that? And all of a sudden, the helicopter dudes I've been going and flying with just to kind of do something different, this Bell chopper, treetop level, something straight out of Rambo, nose down, dumbass Jeff Pike. I'm like, oh, they just know I'm out here. Hey, what y'all doing? and they called it, there was this code that Fairfax used. It was like Code 1 or something. They had a name for it. Right. It meant bad.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, the first cop came, and this guy was like I'm 6'5". He's like 6'6" and totally jacked.
Right.
He gets out with the baton. What's going on? I mean, he's like, this dude is like ready. He's ready for a war.
Right.
I was like, what's going on? They called a Code 1 on you. I was like, nah, I didn't call anything. I didn't have a radio. They roll in, and then a couple hours later, they're like, the captain and they had little district offices and stuff. Go down. So I tell him the story, and he's just like, are you kidding me? I was like, dude, I'm not. I swear you can't make up what happens in my life.
Right.
Guess who got a Fairfax County radio installed in my car?
So what year was that?
This would have been like 93.
Okay.
94.
Yeah.
Some right in there.
Early on.
Yeah. And so
how long did the game commission like that? I mean, it's huge now compared to what it was back then.
I don't remember how many game wardens. I was like it was just a weird dynamic that the game commission, and it was this sentiment that you were more like animal control up there.
Right. So
for me, I wouldn't say I caught any crap over it, but there were more laid back supervisors that weren't very
proactive.
They were not proactive. They did not like Jeff Pike getting drugs, and then when boating season came in, you know, I would just destroy the boat DUIs and the car DUIs. And everywhere I went, I was always, and that's why I'm an expert witness in DUIs, is just sheer numbers.
Right.
It's sheer numbers and variety.
So you get up there, you're proactive, you get all that stuff done. How did you end up in Lynchburg, Virginia, undercover?
Okay, so I was trying to work my way because I'm driving 300 miles to my farm in Wythe. My days off, this and that. 85 Toyota pickup truck, no AC.
Something's got to change.
Yeah, so they sent me to Henry County.
Okay.
So I worked Henry, Pittsylvania, Patrick, Martinsville, Danville, and I was wearing stuff out down there. That place is
it's a different one.
Martinsville, Danville is a rough place. That's down in Danville's the closest I ever came to shooting somebody. And so I'm still driving that. That's still like an hour to get back to my place.
Right.
And so the chief in Pulaski got some kind of task force grant, and they wanted me to do undercover work.
Okay.
So I went there, and then my dad left. I went to Wythe. I went there right before he was getting ready to leave, and he went to
retired as sheriff, and then
he went to U.S. Marshal. Okay. So I, like a dumbass, a sheriff then was not very. He never probably arrested anybody in his whole life. And so I decided, well, I'm going to run for the nomination for sheriff. Came close, didn't win it. Paid a heavy price for that, like anybody that knows politics does. And so I had a friend that ran the regional jail. He said, Jeff, I know you're going to get a job somewhere else. We just opened the jail up. We come down here and work. I went there for like 3 or 4 months. And then in Lynchburg, apparently they had an individual that they tried to do. Chuck Bennett, the chief, was from Richmond. He had a background in narcotics, and they were wanting to do a kind of a high-level undercover operation. They had someone they tried to do it with, but apparently, it's not for everybody, and it can be scary. For me, I was never scared. I mean, you get adrenaline, but to some people, and I've run across it over the years, the scaredy cops, and it's more prevalent than you think. The last guy to get to the bad call, or the guy that's busy when the bad call's there, or it sounds good, I want to work undercover, till you got to walk into a crack house and they push a slide across it and you're in there.
Yeah, you're not going.
You're in there. So they hired me. It was Chief Bennett, the clerk. He's probably, I don't know if he's alive or dead now, older guy, and Russell Davison, that's ATF. And we went to some bus shop in the middle of the night, and I was sworn in there. They hooked me up with an apartment. They hooked me up with a phone that nobody knew, that went through their billing and whatnot, which is a story in of itself, that I got into with one of the captains, because he was trying to figure out where this phone bill was coming from.
Right.
So
not everybody at the PD was.
Nobody knew. Initially,
just the chief,
the
clerk,
chief, clerk,
Davison,
Stokes, who was lieutenant over Vice.
Okay.
There might have been a couple fringe people that had an inkling that I was out there.
There's something.
Nobody saw me. Okay. Nobody knew what I looked like. Nobody, there might be somebody out there, but we really don't know who or what it is. And so, because like we talked earlier, I didn't work informants initially. They would give me tips of, we're having trouble with this, we're having trouble with this. And then I would figure out, how am I going to wiggle my way into the spot?
So I think that's what's unique about what you did, as opposed to a lot of people like me that work narcotics and work cases like that, where we have to find somebody to infiltrate to go in. You actually did it yourself. So you were given a problem, and you were given the freedom to find a solution. Sure.
I mean, and some of it was easier than the others. They go Pierce Street or Cabell Street or whatever. Here's where to go. But I knew if you showed up, even then, even though there were open air markets, there's still like a little level to kind of maybe make it a little easier. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of thought about what's believable, what makes sense.
So you come up with your own cover on what you were going to.
Yeah. Well, what I did was, and it sounds, at the time, nobody had ever done it. And it was fairly simple. So I would go down to the Comfort Inn. I didn't even rent a room. And I'd call up the cab company.
Okay.
And the cabbie would show up, and sometimes I wore like bibs, or I was like the construction guy.
Okay.
I get in the cab, and they had told me the cab companies were dirty.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm in town working. Can you take me to the liquor store? And they take me to the liquor store. And I get back in the cab, I crack it. They would allow you to drink like a couple beers or whatever, but I didn't really. Usually I'd take a swig and maybe spill some on me.
So you smelled like it.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, I'm really looking to party down here. Is there any way you can hook me up? I'll take care of you. They would take me right to the corner. They would take me right to the street.
And they had the cred.
You roll in with a cab. It was like a feeding frenzy. Like you had thrown chum in the water.
So you could pick who you wanted to buy from.
So then I would buy. It was hard because it would happen quick, and they had a vehicle set up with me for cameras. So what I was trying to do is set the stage. I would do that a few times with the cabs. Not only am I I'm definitely getting the cabbies in trouble and the cab company in trouble. The street guys are harder because it's so quick, and they would make me do photo lineups to pick the people out, even though we had it on video. And there was like a set of twins. It was like a Mangelo or a Langelo. There was some twins I couldn't pick out. There was some times that I couldn't pick them out from a photo lineup after I'd made the deal, even though it was on video.
Right.
So after doing a couple, 3 buys out of the cabs, I got my truck. And there's videos I have. You go in, and they're like studying me. And I was like, dude, I was down here in the cab the other day. And they go, oh, yeah, I remember him. Sell. And once they would sell to me in the vehicle,
first time it was
then it was
smooth sailing.
It was smooth sailing.
As long as you paid and everything else, you were good.
You paid. Then they would get to the point where they let me come in houses. Okay. And then we did some things later on where I actually took a tag team, and we would in the back of a delivery vehicle. Again, it's not rocket science. They're like, how are we going to get a tag team? I was like, let me rent a U-Haul. I'll go down, make some buys, and the U-Haul, leave the back end open. And then when you're ready to hit it, throw the team in. So that's what I did. I did like buys in a U-Haul truck, but that was at the very end. So I was doing the street buys, and I was like, dude, this is easy. I'm making all kinds of cases.
Okay.
And then,
so you're directed to a certain area, and you just start rolling, making buys.
And then it's when I started experiencing what I experienced in other places.
Okay.
This is too much. This is Commonwealth Attorney's Office, because I would do the reports and they didn't sign my name, but they're starting to see this stuff get generated.
And they're probably still in the dark at how you're doing it.
Yeah.
But they're like, holy smokes, we've got a cop out there that's making buys.
Yeah.
Hand-to-hand buys.
And so the first excuse was that I was targeting too many black people.
Okay.
Fine. Jeff will take care of that. Just slick my hair back and be the cool dude, and I start going to the bars.
Okay.
And I start targeting the country bars.
Okay.
And the whatever bars. You want me to change demographics? No problem.
Problems in every demographic.
Started doing it there. Then I was like, there's a lot of trouble with these bars. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. The actual bars themselves, the management, the owners. So they had Stephanie Gorman was the ABC chick, and she got hold of me on the phone to kind of educate me. You know, I knew the laws, but there's some administrative, not administrative, but there's some technical things.
They have regulations.
Yeah, that they're violating. So she educated me on that. So not only would I go in restaurants and then buy drugs, then I was like monitoring the alcohol stuff, which shut down the biggest Catalani's that used to be here. I guess I can say the name since they're no longer here.
Yeah.
The Dahlia, Boodles, Time Out. Some of them never recovered.
Because they got massive fines.
Oh, massive fines. They would have to close. They would always make up stories for refinishing the floors or whatever. I think Catalani's.
So they never said Jeff was here?
No, there was never a drug problem. You know, it's just we got to fix the floor and pay the fine and go on. So, you know, I started doing that, and, you know, I could tailor it. I would just start thinking about the story I could tell. And, of course, another thing is most undercover stuff or cops will go to the bar the one time.
Right.
I was going in a bar every night, and not to get drunk or whatever. I could drink 2 beers. I took it in the bathroom and poured them out. Right. Also, I had been in the issues where I'd seen where people go, oh, he's doing drugs too, so his testimony's not. I got drug tested all the time, which they got.
So people were starting to say, so you're successful, and they're like, well, there's got to be a reason he's using or something else.
Yeah, so I would get
anything to sideline something.
Yeah, I was like, drug test me. And then, too, by that point, I had worked it, and I knew that there were certain cops that didn't want you to be successful, either from jealousy or they were involved in it too. You know, I've done undercover and narcotic stuff where people ended up in jail. I had one dumbass, I had a vehicle, and we had county stickers. Right. So I had a friend in Northern Virginia send me a county sticker, and the guy who was over me raised hell. What's that county sticker doing on that car? Well, you look like a narc if you don't have a county sticker because you're going to get pulled over and get in touch. Well, they didn't know he's banging informants and doing stuff with drugs. That was his tale to his people.
He's like,
you see the car with no county sticker?
Stay away.
That's going to be the man.
Stay away from it.
So you start getting those kind of things happen to you, and you learn really, really quick. But going back to the bars and stuff, you know, I sang karaoke. I played pool. I was there every night.
So you were a known.
Yeah. Cop wouldn't be in here. And the bar culture is a really weird thing. It's almost like Cheers. Once you go a week or two, Jeff, brother, what are you doing? Another thing working undercover, always use your real first name because you'll forget and slip up.
So were you Jeff Foxworth?
No, I was Jeff Willard because the operation was Willard the Rat.
Okay.
And that's how we come up.
There you go.
With Willard.
Something that's easy to remember.
Yeah. And, but your first name, I always kept the first name.
Right.
And I had different stories about what I did, where I was from. Again, if you're saying to somebody, hey, I'm from wherever, you better know something about that place. I mean, that's just common sense.
So where'd you say you were from?
I said I was down towards Bristol.
Okay.
And just say Bristol was big enough to where you wouldn't. I knew enough about Bristol. And then I have a heavy accent.
Southwest
makes
Virginia
sense.
Accent.
Some people I did construction. Then if I wanted to step it up where it would make sense, I had money, it was the time they were putting in cell phone towers.
Right.
So I work for a cell phone company that puts in towers, and I do cell phone tower signal testing. Something nobody knows what the hell is that.
So you don't have to really talk about it.
Nobody can ask what question are you gonna ask me. I don't know what.
So you don't do like Seinfeld and say you're a doctor or something like that?
No, you better come up with a good story. So that was a story that fit me. It made sense, but nobody knew technically enough about it to ask you a legitimate question. If I'd run across a cell phone tower guy, they're probably not going to be dealing dope.
So what I hear and what you were doing is, number one, it was proactive, but number two, it took time. It took time and effort. And you had to have a certain level of commitment to deal with the problem.
Sure.
And you were and you had a solution. It just took time to get there. We talked about this earlier, and I think most cops are like, "Hey, I'm not going anywhere without a gun." You ran into an issue when you first started undercover. Talk about that, where you weren't even carrying a firearm.
Yeah, I mean, most of my buys, and I'm kind of hard-headed in some ways, especially if somebody, even in business now, if somebody says I can't or whatever, I'll figure out a way to do it. You know, you're not going to stop me. And I had run across situations where people were obstacles. So to qualify, and I can't remember if it was a Glock, a Beretta, whatever. To me, it was a cop gun. I shoot a 90, 94. I'm not the marksman, but I can easily pass. I've been shooting at a range since I was a teenager, doing the standard shooting course. And I was like, I can't carry that gun. It looks like a cop. So like, gun I got on now, little snub nose 38.
Right.
It's a beater. I can throw it around, whatever. It makes sense. Well, you're gonna have to qualify with that. And I was like, a 5-shot revolver. I mean, my dad and then back in I didn't have speed loaders. And you had to shoot over an 80. And during the daytime shooting, I think I shot an 82. And I was like, with the bullets in my pocket, and I'm trying to throw out the casings. I was like, I'm never going to do this at night. I don't have night sight. You
don't have anything that you
So
need.
And it's basically look like a flash bulb going off in my face. I'm doing the best I can. I think I shot like a 73 or whatever. But you can't carry that. You didn't qualify. So I was like, fuck it. I just won't carry a gun.
Okay.
Sorry to say it that way, but I'll be hard.
So if you were ever in the situation where you got stopped or anything else, you would have been sitting in jail until your handler was notified.
Yeah. Because the first few times they actually went out, and then they realized how time consuming it was. They weren't going to put somebody out there listening to a wire with the music or the whatever going, and I'm in a place for 3, 4, 5 hours. And so they were like, and I guess, to my credit, they kind of give me a little leeway, and they're like, Jeff will be fine.
Do what you need to do.
Jeff will be fine. And if you need something, you let us know. But
you didn't have credentials, or I mean, you had
No.
you didn't have anything.
I had
on
a
you.
fake wallet. I didn't carry and on me, nothing. No gun. I had a fake wallet. I had a social security card, fake names, driver's license. I'd pick up like your intelligence got some litter. If I stopped at whatever, got a membership at the Blockbuster, whatever.
Something to fit in.
It looked like a legit, and depending on what part I was playing, I wore certain the nasty boots, or I dressed up a little bit more for this or that. I'd alter things. And then, of course, what helped me too is done it before. I knew the tales that they would look for because they would tell me. I would ask them. Shoes are a big thing. But I was the weirdo that didn't look like a cop.
Yeah.
I was tall and lanky and long hair and a goof.
So you fit in.
You
just look like anybody normal.
Nobody hardly ever.
So talk about tell, and we're going to transition into a darker side. But talk about one of your funniest stories that you can think of. I'll give you a second or two. But funniest story that you had working undercover that you're like, man, you cannot make this up.
The prostitution?
Whichever one you want to talk about.
I would say that it's very common to meet women cops that have played prostitutes. It's very uncommon to meet that had played male prostitutes.
So you were Deuce Bigelow?
Yeah, no, I don't know what I was. I didn't even know. And bless his heart, Stuart Mack, who's passed, worked Vice. And this is later on. This is after. Because you have to realize I did the super undercover. Then I started doing more top-end stuff, but still a little bit different level than working CIs. I was the prop guy that you could do things with.
Right.
That, Jeff looks like crap. He could do this. Or we've got this issue. And my super secretness was not, it was still there a little bit, but it wasn't quite the level. So they had a park down in Lynchburg, and there was Little League fields there. And that's where the gay community dudes or whatever were going to.
Okay.
And so they had 2 10 or 12-year-old boys from the Little League team walked in on 2 guys having sex.
Yeah.
And, of course, they called the chief, and then they go, hey, y'all need to go down there and take care of this.
So you were the multi-tool and you fixed everything.
Jeff maybe he can be gay. I don't have anything about gay people, so nobody jump my shit for it. Don't care what you do. But it's not appropriate. Whether you're gay or straight, you don't need to be doing it in the bathroom and letting some kids walk in on you.
Right.
Sorry, that's just the way it is. So me and Stuart Mack, I was like, in my mind, gay. So I went to Walmart and I bought a pink shirt.
Okay.
Stuart, we had Barbara that worked there that was much smaller, and Stuart had the typical big black guy's butt and put on the booty pop pants. And he had a shirt with a smiley face that had his tongue sticking out. And then
y'all were quite the couple.
Yeah, then we went and got some Jergens lotion, and let's just say Stuart, who God rest his soul, me and him got along great. He checked on me sometimes. I mean, he was a good guy. And we got some lotion, and Stuart was very black complected. So I would put lotion on Stuart, we'd rub lotion on each other, and we went down to the park.
Okay.
And so it was relatively easy compared to the women prostitutes.
Okay.
I mean, these guys were like wanted bad.
Right.
And so, as you know, you have to have a discussion of a sex act and a furtherance. And a furtherance is exchange of money or driving down the street or showing a body part.
Right.
So, and again, no offense to gay people, it's just not my thing. So
right.
I wasn't going to do whatever.
Right.
So what I would do, if they didn't do a money exchange or didn't want to go somewhere, I would have them show me their penises.
Right.
And so I had one guy who was, and for whatever, they called me homewrecker for a while because a lot of the guys I was getting were all married. Stuart.
Jeff the homewrecker.
Yeah, Stuart did much better than me because I think they preferred black guys. And so I had to drop my prices a little bit compared to Stuart. And so I had this guy hanging up on me, and I was in the passenger side. Of course, all this is recorded. There's a takedown team and all that. And the guy's sitting in the driver's seat, and I'm standing, And the cops here call my daddy after this happened. And my dad calls me, what the hell is going on down there? So he wouldn't show me his penis. And I was like, you have to be invented. And then he goes, show me yours and I'll show you mine.
All right,
Hey,
then.
I'm securing my manhood. So I pull it out and he goes, unlike any woman in my life that I've ever heard say anything, and I've never heard this, he went, that is the most beautiful penis, other than he didn't say it that way, that I've ever seen in my life. And I will do this and this to it. Okay. And I said, well, I need to see yours.
Okay.
And he showed me his. And we said the word.
Did you have anything nice to say about his?
Other than it was it was very small. And like a friend of mine used to say, an older guy, it looked like a mouse buried up in a hay bale.
A mouse in a hay bale.
And that's a rural Appalachian saying. And I might have had some girls say that to me as far as descriptions, but I never had one say it was beautiful. And so we said the words.
Oh.
And I know he may listen or not. He's still around. Dan Black, I'll never forget. He retired. Was he a lieutenant or something? And sorry, Dan, if I don't remember your rank. Pulls up with the most disgusting look on his face. And he goes, y'all are sick. You're sick. And then my guy who was married, and he was a produce manager at a major grocery store that I won't say, major grocery store, proceeds to have a heart attack. Or he said he was.
Okay.
We had to call the rescue squad, and they transported him. And long story short, and of course, it's a misdemeanor. And
I would say it would be more appropriate if he worked in the meat department, wouldn't it?
Maybe. No, he worked in the produce department.
I know, but he should be in the meat department. Yeah.
But no, that I would say, I had, there's dozens of stories of silliness. After you would be exposed, most everybody says, I knew you were a cop, or I don't know him, never seen him in my life.
Right.
I knew the whole time, even though you were doing what you were doing.
Yeah, you knew it. You knew it so well that, like, after I come out and tell you exactly what the answer is, you have the answer.
But then, again, later on, then that's when they would use me. Okay, we're going to bust a house. Jeff's the prop. He looks like, take the U-Haul down there. Right. And in that particular case, it was a tremendous operation. And they had a helicopter and everything. And at the end of the day, it wasn't cool, Jeff, you did this or that. There was two things. I had slung the TAC team around too bad in the back of the U-Haul. So they were all pissed at me. And then one of the captains, who I won't name their names confidentiality, had thrown up in the state police helicopter. And everybody was sworn to secrecy that if it got out, you were going to have hell to pay. And I was like, what about me?
Yeah, this was a great.
What I've been doing?
Great operation.
And they're worried about.
Full disclosure, I had to fly one time. Those 511 jackets that had the inside pocket. I puked in my pocket.
Well,
and I drove the whole thing, and nobody complained about the smell, but it was a little hot on my chest for about 10 minutes.
I'll never forget one time I had a friend, and he worked in art, and we were doing aerial interdiction in far southwest, and I had flown a lot. I'd flown in Hueys. I've flown in MD 500s. I went up 2 years ago with the power line crew that was trimming. I paid them to take me on a ride.
Okay.
We were trimming the power. They had to land in my field. So I've done a lot of that. And so a friend of mine, Jim, had went up in the state police helicopter. I was in a Huey. And when we came back to land, he didn't have a shirt on. It's like, here's this guy with no bare chested. I was like, where's your shirt? I threw up in it. I was like, where's it at? I threw it out the window. So somebody's house, a vomit-laden shirt lands in your yard. But I just never forget, because Jim was like this barrel-chested, hairy guy, and he cops off the hell. I was like,
what are you doing?
Jim, where's your shirt at? Anyway.
So the last thing I want to cover is, I think in law enforcement, we've had a lot of people on as guests, and they've talked about law enforcement, where we are in law enforcement. I think one of the things that you investigated that was probably one of the more difficult things is, and I'll let you tell the story, is, what was it, a double or a triple homicide?
Triple homicide.
Triple homicide.
Riverside, California.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit and what that was like, having to work that. as a cop and seeing somebody that has a badge, just like we have badges, involving himself in something so horrible?
Well, I would say this, that initially I had seen the post on social media of the crime and his connection to law enforcement very early on. And a lot of people, I don't know if they say I'm psychic, so that's why I could get loads of dough. I think you just, when you grow up in it, you develop this sense of.
That doesn't sound right.
And I have been involved in law enforcement. I've seen all the corruption, every level of nonsense and stupidity and criminal activity on the part of cops. So when I see a trooper / deputy commit a triple homicide and catfish a girl, I was like,
But talk about the girl. How old was this?
15.
15-year-old child.
This ain't the first time. You don't just snap and do that. So I reposted the story before I knew anything about it. And my comment was, I bet the state police and the Washington County Sheriff's Office, HR, is working overtime. And of course, within a few hours, they release a statement, no problems, no this, nothing's happened.
This kid has never given us any problem.
This never happened. I was like, this bullshit, there's no way. So what he did was, he was posing as he's 29, 30 years old. He's posing as a 17-year-old online, talking to, we later found, multiple underage girls. And this particular girl was 15 and lived in Riverside, California. So he drives across country, shows up at her grandparents' house where this girl lived with her mother. He produces a badge and a gun, slits the mother's throat, goes in, ties up the grandparents, puts plastic bags over their head. We know that they smothered to death because he later sets the house on fire. There's no smoke in their lungs. The dogs are killed in the fire. Takes the 15-year-old. The neighbor, thank God, saw it. They get in a police chase. He's shooting at the cops with his service revolver, shot at the police helicopter, and as they're closing in, thank God he didn't kill the little girl or the 15-year-old, he killed himself.
But still the trauma for that 15.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a multi-million-dollar lawsuit about it over what she's endured, and plus, these people getting killed. Again, the narrative. No trouble. He was excellent.
We're as shocked as everybody else.
I was like, there's no way. So because he had just left the state police and had went to Washington County, the Los Angeles Times got hold of me and said, Jeff, we understand you're a private investigator in an area. It's in your area. Do you mind logistically helping us with some stuff, or do you know this and that or whatever? And I said, sure. And they called me within a few days and they said, there's rumors that he failed there's a polygraph examination and this guy had been committed in a mental institution. I was like, are you kidding me? And they said, can you figure it out? I said, yeah, made one phone call. And apparently on the state police portal, when an applicant or somebody's in there, anybody in the agency can go look at your file if you're in the process of getting hired and all that, and look up your...
Just see what status was and what you've done. So you know who you work with.
Yeah. That's
the theory.
That's not available anymore.
Okay.
That got ixnayed over this.
Okay.
Made one phone call. I said, hey, is it true there's a polygraph and this guy admitted that he was committed to a mental institution? Yeah, it's true. How do you know? Are you 100%? Oh, I got a copy of it. You want it? Absolutely. Give me 5 minutes and I'll send it to you. And then as this progressed later on, instead of fixing a problem, then became the main questions of how I got this information.
So they were going after the person that gave the information.
And I never will divulge that. I mean, there would be such retaliation. So, and I've got a copy here, and I brought it. He admitted that he went in a mental institution for threatening to kill himself and his daddy.
How old was he when that happened?
I've got the dates on the court.
Teenager, or was he?
No, he was an adult.
He was. So it wasn't like something that happened when he was a child.
No, he was an adult.
Within the period of time where.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not only has he been committed to a mental institution, he admitted to drug use. He admitted to cheating on tests in college.
All of which would have disqualified him.
Back in my day, he admitted to there was a commoners things, not giving notice and leaving a job. Yeah, you could say, whatever. And I'm like, you're committed to a mental institution. Of course, I called the LA Times. I was like, are you sure? I was like, I got a copy. I got the polygraph. Who did it, when it was done, where it was done, and all the answers. It's clear in there. He admits to it. And then I'm like, you're committed. Your gun rights are revoked. I wonder about that. So I knew that it had happened. And the weird thing is that all that had happened in Washington County, where he ended up working at. So what I didn't know is Washington County does their committal stuff through the city of Bristol, which is.
But still, wouldn't a deputy be the one that?
Well, the guy doing the polygraph, once you'd seen that, you would tell the background check guy,
right,
this is a problem.
Right. But I'm just saying, before he got hired in Washington County, somebody from that sheriff's office would have been the one to serve the ECO.
Oh, yeah,
correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I was like, wonder how you get that. There's a form you fill out. And I just put my explanation for wanting it is the guy's dead, and it's for the greater good of the community to figure this out. He'd had his gun rights revoked, and he was hired by the state police and then the Washington County Sheriff's Office.
Who are the ones that do the background checks for people to purchase
so
firearms?
the narrative then changed to Washington County says, well, he was a trooper. State police says it was human error. Somebody hit F2 instead of F3 on the thing. I'm like, no, that might have happened, but what about this polygraph?
You have two humans that knew better.
And this whole group, this class, is my understanding, was the special class that the command staff reviewed everybody. Nobody reviewed anything. Nobody reviewed this guy's background check. But the stupid thing is, the polygraph guy could have went, whoa, wait a minute. Hey, Fred, you're doing the background check.
This kid's a problem.
This is an issue. I mean, it's beyond ridiculous, the failures here. And then he goes on to utilize training and equipment to perpetrate a triple homicide, a kidnapping. He could have killed some cops. And the whole thing was, nothing was wrong. Oh, it's just human error. Look the other way. And then what I learned is, some departments now they will work short and keep quality, and others will lower the quality just to fill seats.
Warm body in a seat.
Exactly.
So, so from your experience with that, how does that relate to law enforcement now? So what you were saying is, let's not drop the standard. Let's hold the standard and do quality over quantity.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And the message it sends too, and I said this on some major news outlets, is that the public perception of police is destroyed. It's destroyed. And in the academy, I would teach, most people only deal with a cop one time in their life, and how that cop treats them is their perception of the police and all of the rest of their life. But when you do something that horrendous, and for me, if I'd been in charge, I would go, look, this is a terrible failure. We have corrected. The polygraph guy's fired or demoted. The background check guy ain't going to do backgrounds anymore. There would be some substantial.
And you put that information out there.
Yeah.
So it is, we are this agency.
Sure.
But we made a mistake.
If I had been the governor, superintendent, you're done. I'm not putting up with this. But they're not going to do that.
So, but I'm guessing from my standpoint that there was never, even to this day, obviously if there was a lawsuit, there was an admission of wrongdoing or just a settlement, but there's never been an official statement from either agency correcting the record saying, hey, we made a mistake.
The only mistake, the state police, they make it sound like some clerk in a room touched the wrong key on a keyboard.
And that's not how backgrounds work.
No.
Not at all.
So, that was, and the people were very shocked. But, I've been in business as a private investigator for 23 years. So, there's people that don't like me. There's people that do. In this instance, it was kind of not shocking, but there's a lot of old school troopers that were so mad about this that they were willing to help, but there was no Jeff Pike's not going to catch any repercussions like they would,
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, if one of these people had stood up and said, "Hey, you would have faced heavy consequences."
They wouldn't have kept their job.
No, you would have been run out of town on a rail or transferred to someplace, and they can sit there and go, "Oh no, we wouldn't. Our agency would never do that." But Joey, you've been around long enough as I have that you rock the boat and you try to stand up for the right thing. You can pay a heavy price for it.
Well, I tell you, I think it's a good way to end it. And what I would like to think is, and I know we discussed this before, but I would like to think that maybe together we could put out there and say, hey, if you have something that you think might be public corruption, somebody that hasn't done something right, contact us.
Sure.
And would you be willing to help us investigate things like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think, like, with your experience and your level of expertise and the level that you work at, it'd be awesome to be able to go out there and hold some public officials accountable.
Sure. And, I've done stolen valor. I've done all kinds of corruption cases. Again, this is my 23rd year in business. I typically do between 175 and 200 cases a year. Everything, I'm an expert witness in multiple categories in 3 states, all the way up to the federal level in homicide, police procedure, evidence collection, DUI, car crash, narcotics. That's declared expert in court by the judge after a debate about my background.
Yeah, it's not like they don't just like knight
Jeff
you.
just
They
say
don't
whatever.
knight you.
One side says I'm good as gold, and another side says I don't know anything.
They have to the side that says you're an expert has to win that argument.
Exactly, and then the
judge has to agree with it.
And then I can offer opinion. I testify to fact. I had a court last week, and they just stipulated to the evidence. Both sides like, well, it's Jeff. The judge is fine. We're fine. Both sides are fine because of me. But then in those cases, I can offer opinion instead
based
of just
on
yeah,
based on everything
my experience,
training experience that you had to get a step.
And it's not nitpicky. A lot of people say, well, he's nitpicking this or body cam video. No, I'm not nitpicking anything. Some of these mistakes are just beyond.
It's not. It's an obvious mistake.
It's
It
terrible.
is somebody getting up and saying one thing, and the end result that you have.
Well,
captured
and I
is
can
totally
talk
different.
about this briefly. We got one in Wytheville. It's all public record. It's been in the paper and the news. A guy that blows a 0 and has 0 on his narcotics does a fender bender crash. They're convinced he's DUI, still arrest him, put him in jail for 30 hours when he's blowed 0s and tested 0, and he had a stroke. And he's permanently disabled. And the backstory to that is he run into the mayor of the town.
And his family's the one that suffers from that.
Yeah. I mean, this guy needs 24/7 care now. But again, the backstory.
I think it's crazy that it seems like the higher some people get in government, the more they think they're untouchable.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think about people like us that are like at the bottom rung, and we're held accountable, and the standard for us is so much higher than everyone
Sure.
else.
When I got hired, you had to have certain vision. Back in the day, you had to be so tall.
Yeah.
You couldn't be obese. I talk about it all the time. A lot of people don't want to mention it. One of the biggest trouble in law enforcement is obesity. I see these guys, they're not capable of doing their job.
No.
I mean, physically. Oh, yeah, they can sit behind a desk or ride around in the car, but when push comes to shove or they got to chase somebody, they're not going to be able to do it.
That's why I have a dog.
They'll be the first body you step over when you
That's
go to the
true.
scene. I hate to
That's
say
true.
it that way.
No, but you're right. Well, buddy, I really appreciate you coming on.
No worries.
And look forward to working on some projects with you.
I appreciate it very much, Stuart. Thank you.